Okay. Okay, hello, good morning, and welcome to the first ever Link for Growth Health and Wellness TV show. This morning we're running a little bit late. We've had a couple of minor technical issues, but we've managed to sort them out this morning. So that's all positive, and as far as I can tell, we're all going live and well. So um, I'd just like to introduce my co-host this morning, who is Carol Wildgoose. Would you like to come in and say hello, Carol?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Carol Wildgoose, and I'm from Boston in Lincolnshire, and I'm really, really excited to be doing these health and wellness shows. We've all been getting quite giddy about doing this first one, so let's go.
Excellent, thank you, Carol. And I'd also like to introduce Tanya Clark, who's come onto the first show today, and I think quite a lot of people in Link for Growth will recognise you this morning, Tanya. So if you'd like to just pop in and say hello.
Yeah, hi there. Thank you so much, the pair of you, for inviting me this morning. It is an honour to be your first guest this morning, so I'm looking forward to a great discussion and some fabulous shows afterwards. Thank you.
I suppose I'd better do a quick intro myself then, which I always forget to do when I'm hosting. So, I'm Emma James, and I'm the district leader for Milton Keynes, Bedfordshire and North Hertfordshire in Link for Growth, and I also host some other events in central London, some Link for Business events too. I think all of us on this program work within the health and wellness industry in various different ways, and actually it might be a little helpful if we give a quick perhaps minute about what each of us do within this area. Carol, would you like to start?
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, I'm a nutritional therapist, a detox specialist, and also a clinical weight loss advisor. Focus mainly on working with people to help them to heal their relationship with food and turn their back on dieting, basically. I went through about 20 years of suffering really terribly disordered eating patterns, and it's something that I'm quite passionate about helping other people to put an end to, because it does actually ruin your life. So that, along with a real keen interest in whole foods and kind of getting back to nature and tradition, is where I kind of come from in my work and my life, really. Thanks, Emma.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Carol. And Tanya, would you like to tell us a bit about you?
Yeah, I will do. Thanks very much, Emma. I have suffered myself lots of mental health issues over the years, and it wasn't until I realised how powerful I could be in my own solution and in my own recovery that I managed to leave all of that behind. And having discovered that for myself, I decided that it was well worth sharing with lots of other people. So I'm a psychotherapist, a coach, and a Thrive consultant. I help people to learn what they do in their head that shoots them in the foot and how to stop doing it. Helps with depression, anxiety, stress, fears, phobias, all of that sort of thing, and some really big health issues that have a real huge impact on the NHS and other health and care providers. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, and there's I think as the shows go on, people will notice there's a lot of synergy between what we all do. And my background is that I was originally trained within mental health services as a peer support worker, and originally peer support workers were people who had been through secondary mental health services and then were trained to share their experiences of recovery with other people and support them into recovery as well. I also I nearly completed my psychology degree, and I've done some counselling training and recovery coaching, motivational interviewing, and all of that type of thing as I've gone along. And I was working, my previous employed role was within a peer-led mental health charity, and that was very nice. And I was managing the charity and running peer support programs, so literally teaching groups of people from my own experience, part of my lived experience as well as having been through mental health services, is I'm nearly 6 years in recovery from alcoholism. And so that's, I'm very open about all of my experiences, and I find that approach paves the way for people to approach me when they feel that they might have a challenge, and that happens quite a lot. So equally, I think we all have our own experiences within what we do, which is really helpful, and that will develop that idea as we go along. At the moment, I'm running emotional wellbeing programs within the community and within businesses, and I've rekindled that sort of peer support as well, both online and going into businesses and supporting people with stress and anxiety in the workplace, as well as people within the community. But it's going to be an interesting journey, this program, definitely. I'm very excited about it. So I'll leave it there, and we'll kind of kick off. And so I'll give a bit of a description about what we intend to cover it. And of course, there's no kind of end to the shows. So it's not like we're only going to do 4 or 5. They're kind of continuing for as long as we continue to do them, and if other people want to kind of get involved, that'll be great. And so we want to cover as broad a range as possible. And really, what we all know, when different issues come up, there's a huge, there's an infinite array of things that we could all discuss. And also, we're all unique people, so there's a almost infinite number of approaches that we could use and perspectives that we could have. And I think it's time for that kind of synergy to come on board now. So we're going to be covering health and wellness, obviously, as a title for a show. It's a very broad topic. So we want to be looking at mental and emotional health, physical health, addictions, nutrition and diet, fitness, complementary medicine, and some of the 21st century health epidemics that we come up, the ones that hit the headlines, the ones that cost public health a lot of money, those sorts of things. And also looking at the reporting of health and wellness as well, and some of the salient issues. So I'd like to sort of ask an initial question, I think first to Carol. What do you see, some of the reasons for doing a program like this? Why is it important, do you think, and why now, really? And sort of just to start off that discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. I think at the minute we're in quite a difficult time, but also quite a promising time where health and well-being is concerned. We're in a difficult time because we are facing so many different problems where health and well-being are concerned. There's, a huge increase in such things as obesity, which comes with all sorts of health-related problems like heart disease and diabetes, which are huge problems to the people that are suffering with them, and also huge problems to the resources of the NHS. And we're seeing big increases in stress-related illnesses. Emotional well-being seems to be going downhill. A wide array of mental health issues, and also problems which people deal with day to day, which actually are becoming considered normal, such as continued tiredness and never feeling quite 100%, and problems with skin, asthma, eczema. All these things seem to be on the increase at the moment, and people are hoping that there is a solution and trying to find a solution, and feeling confused and frightened about where to turn, because there's so much what I call white noise out there, in terms of science reports that come out and reports that are in the newspaper that really don't give the full story about scientific research that's done. And people really are scared. They don't know where to turn, and some people don't understand quite how what you do yourself can have an effect on how you feel and your emotional well-being, and and the whole package. So I think it's really important that we do something like this now to discuss all the topics that are involved surrounding health and well-being, and to give people the information that they need, where they can thereby make their own decisions, informed decisions, but something that works for them, not something that they're being necessarily prescribed by one particular person. You can put different aspects of things together and build a package for yourself. So I think it's really important that we do this and help people to come to terms with what's going on and help them to build a different and better future.
Yeah, thanks for that, Carol. And you know, the same with you, Tanya. What's your take on this?
So I think it's really important that, exactly as Carol says, actually, we get in the news lots of news bites, and we'll get a part of a piece of research project and another part of another piece of research project, and one day we're told to eat beetroot and the next day we're told not to eat beetroot, or whatever it is. And I think until we start to actually be able to put all of these pieces of information together and maybe do a little bit of our own research and find out a little bit more information, we can't make those informed choices. So what I understand this program is about helping people to have a little bit more information, so that they can start to make those informed choices. Sometimes we've got these things that we think might work, and they might work for some people and they might not work for others. Actually, this enables us maybe to understand why they work for some people and not for others, what it is that is helping us to get better when we get better, or to get healthier when we get healthier, and how we can use that information to make the cures, processes, systems, ideas, the learning work for us. It's about, for me, balance and demystifying some of the options that are out there for people, so that they can, exactly as Carol says, make an informed choice. I think it's really important now, because more and more people are relying on what I would call external experts. And what I know is really important is that we start to be the expert in ourselves as soon as we can. So as soon as we can have that information ourselves and balance that information ourselves, then we can be the real experts in ourselves. And it's not necessarily about just going and looking up a load of stuff on the internet. It's about making sense of that in relation to you. Thank you.
I would absolutely agree there, Tanya. You know, it's about unraveling things for yourself, and you know, even in terms of diet, we sort of think that other people should tell us what we need to eat, when actually within us we have an inner instinct that we just need to kind of uncover. And there isn't a one-size-fits-all where anything's concerned in life, and that includes, you know, solutions for emotional health and well-being, solutions for mental health and well-being, diet, exercise. It is about finding out more about ourselves, and as you say, releasing that inner expert, but we need to know how to do it.
And it's quite an interesting point, actually. It's funny because Tanya's sort of saying we need to be the experts in ourselves, and you know, I was just writing that down, actually. And of course, you know, that's the whole point of it. You know, we sort of hand out our personal control out there to somebody else all the time, and where we're walking around with it in us all the time. Just a very simple one, you know, for me with food, you know, Carol, it's when you say about instinct as well, sometimes, you know, we don't need all the tests to tell us something fairly obvious. Like, I know for a fact that if I have a sandwich for lunch, by 2 o'clock I'm falling asleep. You know, it's the bread. If I eat bread, you know, it's a very simple thing, and sort of cutting out bread out of my life. I didn't have to pay an expert hundreds of pounds to give me some kind of test to find out what bread's doing to me. You know, after experience of sitting at desk at work and kind of, you know, my head going and actually feeling really ropey every time I ate a bread product, you know, it doesn't take a genius to work out that actually if I cut out bread, I might feel better. And so it's about those sorts of things. You know, we're constantly deferring our own inner instinct to somebody else, and it's about those lessons that we need to learn. So yeah,
yeah, I think the thing is as well that we've, as I said earlier, we've all become accustomed to perhaps living life slightly under par continually, and we've come to accept that that's normal when actually it doesn't have to be. But in that living life under par, we lose those signals that are being given to us. Our bodies, our minds, our environment, everything is giving us signals every day that we've almost chosen to ignore. So by us doing, you know, these health and wellness shows, hopefully that will bring people to see that, you know, that actually they can start to reignite those signals within them, and to do as you've just said, you know, maybe actually realize that something that they do eat or something that they do on a day-to-day basis is causing a certain reaction within them, whether that be physical or emotional.
And I think it's important to recognise as well where we are in society. So it's brilliant that people are taking responsibility for themselves and that learning, because you need information to be able to take that responsibility. No one ever taught us how to manage our brain, how to manage our bodies, really. You know, no one ever taught us this at school, and it is important that we do that for ourselves, but equally it's important that we do that for our communities and our societies. You know, just this morning on the news there's a report that mental health services are becoming further and further away, and to get an acute mental health bed people are sometimes having to travel over 30 miles. Well, you know, that the way that we're working at the moment with ourselves has knock-on impacts to the society that we live in. And if we're continually looking for the doctors or someone else to fix our problems for us, then we're just going to have to keep paying higher and higher taxes, employing more and more doctors, because the more we do this, the bigger that problem gets. Whereas when we learn the information that we need for ourselves, actually we can have lots of those solutions much closer to home, and actually in our homes, in our families, in our local communities, so that we don't have that extra reliance and all of those huge overheads that we have as a society. Now, you know, my background's in CQC and in health and social care services, but sometimes that over-reliance on the big boys is a bit detrimental to us in the longer term. Might be what we're looking for short term, like that cream cake that you might want to take, Carol, but in the longer term, it's not so good for us. And learning to make those choices is really, I think, what this program's about.
Yeah, absolutely, Tanya. And actually, you know, you bring up mental health services. As soon as anyone says that word, that my you know, ears prick up, because certainly, you know, and we'll probably come on to this a bit later when we talk about you know, sort of reliance on the current system, and I certainly have a view about that, and also, you know, bringing up the what Carol said about feeling under par becoming normal, and that's a, you know, a huge discussion, really, and certainly we get so used to feeling, you know, feeling slightly under par, almost even when we're really self-aware people, you know, we can still, you know, with a gradual decline in, I don't know, you know, if you've been really busy a lot and you sort of getting tired a lot, and then after a few weeks you might think, actually I've been feeling a bit ropey. It takes a while sometimes to catch up and look at that. And of course, when that goes on and on and on and on and on, that's when the real major health problems kind of appear, isn't it? It's interesting because when, certainly from my perspective of having worked with people in mental health services, and then now working with people with emotional well-being, and I purposefully call it emotional well-being because there's a kind of because that sort of that everybody can relate to that, whereas as soon as you start to say mental illness, some people say, well, that's not for me, because it's there's a kind of an association or a connotation that that's for a certain type of person who has a certain type of condition over there in services, whereas emotional wellness is everybody can relate to that, because we all experience emotions. And so I'm interested in that aspect of when I did a little thing at Oundle the other meeting at the event in Oundle the first thing I asked everyone was, how is everybody? And everyone looks really awkward, like, oh no, and of course, because actually when we stop, that probably at that point there's majority of the room might say, actually I'm feeling a bit tired today, or actually I've had a really stressful day, or actually, and that's the important thing, is those little things that people dismiss. How do I look after myself when I'm tired, or how do I look after myself if I've had a stressful day, or how do I look after myself when I feel anxious, and I think that's making it apply to everybody, rather than just a few people who might have a label of this illness or this mental health problem, or do you know what I mean? And it comes into that prevention and keeping us well, maintaining our well-being, rather than waiting until some kind of crisis of health happens, I think. So, yeah, anyway.
I think we'd all agree with you, Emma, absolutely. Look after the pennies and the pounds will take care of themselves, as my grandma used to say. It's exactly the same with mental health.
Absolutely. I think it's the same with any health issue that we've been talking about. You do the small things and it all accumulates. We seem to have lost you, Emma.
I muted myself when I thought I was unmuting myself. Yes, so let's move on a little bit. We're kind of overlapping on things, and that's fine. So, Carol, over to you, I think.
Yeah, Tanya, I wanted to ask you a question. I think we've covered part of this, but what do you feel personally that are the most important messages which should come out of the process of broadcasting these shows? What do you feel is really important that we need to get across, and and effectively to have people here?
Yeah, thanks, Carol. I think the most important thing is actually that people have choices, people have options, that you can make your choices as to what you think is right for you. It's like when they say when you're choosing a therapist, that when you're choosing someone to work with, a coach, a guide, a mentor, whoever it is, when you're choosing a partner, when you're choosing your friends, you choose the one that's right for you. And sometimes there'll be this person will be right for you, and sometimes that person will be right for you. And it'll be something that happens between the chemistry between you and them, the way that you get on, the way that you talk to each other, the way that you understand each other. And sometimes it will be because actually they're bringing a completely new idea to you and you're interested in that idea. I think one of the key things that I think this program can do is explain to people that there are options for them. They don't have to go down the route that everyone's telling them to go down. They don't have to go down the route that the doctors are telling them to go down, or their friend is telling them to go down. It's for them to make that choice for themselves, for the right thing for them. And there are options out there if they've got the information to be able to make that choice. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. I almost forgot to unmute myself then, just like Emma did a minute ago. We'll get there in the end. No, I absolutely agree with you. And again, you know, we are going back to something that we've spoken about since the beginning of the show, and it is that there isn't a one-size-fits-all for people. And I think not only for people watching the show in terms of thinking about what they need personally, but I think it's important for us as therapists as well in different areas to realise that there isn't a one-size-fits-all for people, and that actually as therapists we can all complement each other, and allowing people that option by just showing ourselves as you know what we are and what we do, rather than you know, as you might kind of run your business in more of a salesy way. I think that's quite important, you know, because we do need to understand that actually as therapists we've all got different things that we can offer, and if we can draw on those things and help other people, then I think that's absolutely amazing. That creates a new just a whole new thing, a whole new theory.
I think you're absolutely right, Carol. I want to, sorry, just jump back in there and add a point to what I said earlier. One of the things that we see very often in health and wellness circles is the revolving door syndrome. And whilst there will be an option that's right for you, sometimes taking that responsibility for ourselves is also about saying, I've chosen this option, I'm going to work with it, I'm going to make this work for myself, rather than just looking for the next thing. Because sometimes it's about learning to be with that uncomfortable place and learning the skills to get through that discomfort to be able to get to the other side, and that's the lesson that we're looking for. So although there are a myriad of different options out there, once you've chosen it, you want to stick with it for a while to make sure that you're getting the best out of it. Give it your whole, give it your heart, give it your brain and your body, so that you can get the most out of this situation. And then perhaps you know, all of these things are there because they work for some reason. Once you understand how they work, actually that can really help you too. So yes, lots of options, but also the commitment to stick with it, which can of course be difficult for some people.
Absolutely. I think there's another point on the back of that as well, which is that, you know, I mentioned earlier, what works for your sister, for instance, might not work for you. And I think it's important to help people to realise that whilst they're on their own journey, that we have to allow other people to be on theirs as well. And just because somebody's sitting in the office near to you that's doing something that wouldn't work for you and you don't think it's right, doesn't mean that it's not right for them, and they're on their own journey. And I think it's important that we all start to allow that to happen. You know, somebody might want to work with me and they do absolutely brilliant, but then there could be someone else that works with me and it doesn't work for them. So everyone needs that ability to be able to make those choices, and I think that's certainly coming through for me in this show, is that is one of the key things that we're trying to get out there to people at the moment. So yeah, I was just going to ask Emma what your views are on this.
I'll come to that. Gosh, well, a lot of things have been brought up by what you said, and so I'll just touch on those actually, because you know, absolutely, there's, you know, in addition to the needing the options and the guidance, and like you were saying, Carol, you know, allowing others to be on a journey. Interestingly, I also, it's about what's come up really is about how we resonate with people, and like you were saying, Tanya, you know, it's when you choose a therapist of any kind, it's really important that you actually feel a connection and a bond with that person, and of course in some way, and equally, you know, having been on the receiving end of a number of therapists, you know, is being able to go work through the difficult stuff with them, in whatever way. And obviously, in terms of whether that's counselling or whether that's energy healing or whether that's in a nutritional therapy, whatever it is, being able to sort of form a bond with somebody where they can support you through the challenges. But equally, as therapists, I think we have a responsibility as well to be able to know. I mean, I certainly refer people on to other people when I know that I can't offer, or I'm not the right person. Do you know what I mean? I know. And I often refer people on to reputable people that are likely, have more experience in an area, or just I know that that's not the right kind of resonance for between us, because if I don't feel that, or if I feel that somebody else is more appropriate, I will refer people on to other avenues. And I think that's really, really important as therapists, that we kind of take that responsibility as well when we know that another approach might be more beneficial. Not that we know what's right for the person, but I certainly know when I'm not the right person for an individual. I really do, and I would never want to take on, we're dealing with people's lives, and I would never want to take on something just because it's business for me, or because it gives me some kind of personal satisfaction, because it's not about fixing people. It's about empowering and enabling them to find solutions to their own challenges. And of course, it's interesting, that commitment. Certainly in the program that I use for, I have used and I live for my recovery from alcoholism, the 12-step program. It's not easy. It's not easy, and often people will walk in to a meeting and go, "Whoa, I am not doing this," and then go, and then maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, you might see them again, and they've tried everything else. And I think and that's fine. Again, like Carol was saying, it's part of their journey, and people reach different points with things, and different things resonate with different people. But certainly for me, for the shows going forward, it's about enabling those open-minded discussions when we're looking at those really big topics, and we're going to touch on some of those massive themes like big pharma, conventional medicine, the NHS, and some of the big diseases that we have within society, with cancer and heart disease and diabetes and COPD and obesity. And these sensitive topics, they're really sensitive topics to discuss. But I think we need to be able to have right now the message that needs to come out is genuinely having those open-minded discussions where we really listen to each other. And like Carol was touching on about, if we can sometimes we might feel really attached to an approach, or and then and equally sort of think that another approach isn't so good, or, if we're going to talk about in judging a quality. And of course, when we do that, whatever it is, we close off a part of that mechanism for exploring other options. And so I'd like to see, when we have guests on, that inviting people from a real broad range of areas, and and having those challenging and courageous discussions about things. And it'd be quite interesting. We are going to talk about big pharma, and we are going to talk about conventional medicine. But equally, I've come across, I think sometimes people think I might be sort of anti-psychiatry, and being anti anything, is not a progressive way of thinking at all. It's was it Mother Teresa said, she was invited to a war protest. It was about I will not come to your anti-war or anti-violence protest, but when you start marching for peace, then I'll be at the front. And I think it's very much, as soon as we say, I'm anti this, I'm anti that, what we're doing is we're creating a barrier between us and a solution to something. And so, you know, when we shift the direction to actually I'm pro this, and I'm for, you know, finding progressive solutions to health, then it completely melts away any kind of conflict. And I, in terms of psychiatry, for example, you know, I only talk about that because it's my field. You know, I'm now coming across psychiatrists who are looking at alternative approaches. You know, I know one in particular who takes a very spiritual approach, and it's quite interesting. You know, how that happens. So I'll be interested to see how that sort of progresses. But yeah, so I think, have we lost?
Yeah, it looks like we've lost Tanya.
I think she might appear, but I know she's had problems before on there. So yeah.
Hopefully she'll
come back in at some point. So yeah, so for me it's about having those really open-minded discussions where we kind of you know, are able to just lay all the cards out on the table and move forwards, really. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So should we wait for a second, see if she's going to come back, or oh, here she is.
Coming back now.
Yeah. Hello. It's all right. We'll wait for her to come back in. Yeah, because I think that's what's important. And sometimes when we sort of shut down those walls of community, it's about keeping the lines of communication open. And when we shut down those lines of communication, then we're doing a disservice to ourselves and to you know, our fellow human beings, because we can't. We're then no longer living in the solution, and that's my whole when we focus on the problem all the time, we get into petty arguments about this approach is better and that approach is no good, you know, and all of that sort of thing, and my form of healing is better than your form of healing. You know, when we get into all that, it's not helpful, because like we've already talked about, is that, you know, I might personally choose, I mean, I've had people come to see me and I've recommended you know, that somebody go and see somebody with an approach that I don't use for me, but actually might be of benefit to them. Do you know what I mean? And so and different solutions work at different times. You know, I had acupuncture years and years ago for migraine. Now I was almost completely incapacitated by migraine at one point in my life, and they started when I was like 10 or 11, and then when I got to my early 20s, it was so awful. I was missing so much time off work, and they were pumping me full of drugs. And one day I said, you know, you can stuff your drugs, it's not working, and I'm going to try something else. And I tried acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And I literally, ever since then, I haven't had a migraine ever since. And I was like a weekly migraine, and then I had clusters of migraines that lasted like 3 months. I mean, it was awful. It was really severe, and I had paralysis down one side of my body. It was that bad. And I tried, you know, I used acupuncture and Chinese medicine. Now, after very short, it was like 8 weeks or something, maybe less, and I've never had a migraine ever since. However, I don't now use acupuncture for everything that happens in my life, and I don't suggest to people that it's, you know, if someone has migraine, I might suggest it, but I won't say, right, you have to have acupuncture, it's the only thing that will cure you. You know, because I know from experience that people have been for acupuncture and it hasn't done anything for them at all. But you know, at least we have these tools. It's things that we can suggest. And when I like to use the term, you know, suggestion rather than, you know, advice. Sometimes we do say advice, but you know, suggestion. You know, as a suggestion, maybe you could try da 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 da. And a suggestion is a bit more of a gentle way of introducing something, I think.
Yeah.
You know, rather than we can't tell somebody what to do. And I think as in our duty of care, when people look to us as people who might be able to help them with a challenge that they have, that they're experiencing when people are in pain, we have to take that duty of care really, really seriously, because people will do what we tell them to do. Do you know what I mean? So it's being mindful of which ways, how we are suggesting things to people. I think that,
yeah, absolutely.
She's kind of come back briefly and then she's gone again. So
yeah, I think maybe we should carry on, and then obviously if Tanya comes back, we can include her in the conversation as she comes back in.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on to the next question.
Oh, she's back. Hi, Tanya.
Hello. Hello.
Sorry, internet problem.
Yeah, we carried on. We're moving on to the next question now. So hopefully you can hear us. And we're talking about we're actually going on. We've kind of morphed quite nicely into that, I think. So we're talking about now. What do you think about our reliance on Western medicine, and has the conventional route become kind of biased and unbalanced, and how do we okay, assuming that the conventional approach is a bit unbalanced, and that we're kind of kind of forced down a certain route, if we're going to go down that route with it and our reliance on Western medicine, then how do we move forward from that, I think, is a question. So I'll ask Carol first.
Okay. I personally think that we are in a situation now where we're really conditioned to look for quick fixes, and as we mentioned earlier, is looking outside of ourselves to find a solution to a problem. And certainly in my experience, most things come from within, and we may go to the doctor. I'm not discounting modern medicine completely at all, because I think there are certain circumstances where it is essential, certainly in the short term, but in the long term there are other things that we can do. But when you go, say you go to your doctor and you get a pill to treat a condition, that treats the symptoms of that condition, but doesn't actually get to the root cause of the problem. And it could take a combination of different ingredients and different approaches to actually get to the root cause of that problem, and to make that person well, and to have them symptom free. And I think we are in a situation where we are going to the doctor, and unfortunately the majority of doctors that we see have, for instance, very sort of little training on nutrition and a holistic approach to health and well-being. So you go to the doctor and what they are trained in is pharmaceuticals, and how to treat a problem. So we are offered immediately, most of the time, a tablet solution to a problem that we have. And because of the underlying issues we've got with, that we were talking about earlier, with the modern diet and stress and our lifestyles, this going to the doctor is becoming more and more common. So we're kind of in a vicious circle, really. And I think that shows like this can help us to help people to find solutions to move forward, to get out of that vicious circle, because it's putting a huge strain on the NHS. We've got a fantastic healthcare system, yet it's under so much pressure that people are continually complaining. The staff are, beside themselves with stress themselves, and suffering emotionally and, in other terms of their health themselves, because of the stress that's been putting on them. And I just think that we could do to look outside the box as a nation. We need to look outside the box and within ourselves as well, so that we can find the solutions to these problems and release some of the pressure that is currently accumulating.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. And you know, you make the interesting point. We'll be having many more discussions about. You know, I think week 3 is about food and mood, and we'll be having many discussions about, you know, the quick fix pharmaceutical fix, and of course we're being discouraged from kind of being able to sit with pain, really. You know, and sometimes that the pain is there, whether it's emotional pain or whatever, to enable us to kind of look at why it's there. And of course, if we numb that pain, then it obscures us from reaching a solution. So I just want to move on to ask Tanya the same question, really, about you know, Western medicine and our reliance on it. Tanya, would you like to give us your view?
Yeah, I've worked in the NHS in a number of different organisations, and I've worked in organisations that work with the NHS, and I've worked with organisations that regulate, monitor the NHS and social care organisations. And I suppose we touched on this earlier. What I've recognised is the more that we rely upon somebody else to tell us what's wrong with us, the less we take responsibility for it. So, for example, when I was with the Care Quality Commission, we were telling people how to manage their business, what information to gather to manage their business, how to look at themselves so that they could improve, rather than asking them, what information do you need to manage your business? And it sort of links into what you were saying about the pain sometimes being a message for us, whether it's emotional or physical, to say, you know, there might be some information that you want to gather here to help you. And don't get me wrong, I think the National Health Service is absolutely amazing. I think that information that we've got about how our bodies and our minds work is brilliant. But touching on what Carol said, sometimes I think many of our healthcare professionals have been taught how to prescribe and how to fix rather than how to enable. And although I think that that is changing, that balance is changing, I think there's other things that we can do to help it change from our own point of view. We can start to take control ourselves. I think if I might share a piece of research with you, not all research is good, some of it's a whole load of bunkum, but there's some really good peer-reviewed research out there that is, if we've got the right context in which we're setting it, really quite helpful, and I think this is useful for this context. So it's quite an old piece of research. Back in 1977, Rodin and Langer involved some pensioners in a home, one particular group of pensioners. They stressed that everyone there was going to look after them. Everything was going to be fine. We're here. We're responsible for looking after you and making sure that everything is fine for you. For another group of pensioners, they said, actually, it'd be really good if you could take two things. And for this responsibility-induced group that were responsible for themselves, they were also, all of the residents were offered plants in their rooms. For the first group, of course, the carers were going to look after these plants. For the second group, the residents were asked to look after the plants for themselves. Now, interesting result as a result of this, the results of this study, those in the responsibility-induced group became more active, reported feeling happier, and appeared more alert. They were more involved in social activities with the staff and other residents. Even more incredibly, it says in this document that I'm reading, the death rate differences between the two treatment groups were radical. So, in the 18 months prior to the original intervention, just as an arbitrary comparison period, the average death rate during that period was 25% for the entire nursing home. In the subsequent 18-month period, following the intervention, only 15% of the responsibility induced group died, as opposed to 25% beforehand, and of the comparison group had died, even more situation. So that wasn't about drugs, that wasn't about doctors coming in and helping, that wasn't about someone else doing things for them, that was about what they could do for themselves and their responsibility to keep their lives happy and healthy and successful. And I think that's really important for us to recognise when we think about all of the things that we're talking about. There will be things that we do that actually only work because of the way that we think about them. There will be things that we do that work because actually there's a chemical imbalance, or there's something there that needs to be taken away. You know, if someone's got if someone's had an accident and needs a leg fixed, then they need to be fixed. But a lot of the things that we rely on, the health and social provide for us, actually, if we could take a little bit more responsibility ourselves, then that would be a much, much more healthy thing to do in the longer term.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tanya. And you touch on a number of points. That's a really I've heard that piece of research and variations on that research, and it's really, really powerful. And interestingly, you know, it kind of links in with the whole Link for Growth mentality as well, doesn't it? About taking responsibility, and it's not about, you know, it's that balance between, you know, providing a supportive and nurturing environment, but without fixing people. You know, so within that environment, we're enabled, empowered, and encouraged to take responsibility for ourselves, knowing that we can draw on other people's skills, resources, and loving generosity if and when we need it to fill our own sort of skills and resources gaps in a way, and encouragement. But and interestingly, you know, when we sort of talk about conventional medicine, it's not so much about you touched on the things about the NHS and the good, you know, the good that it does as well, and you know, it's well-meaning, if you see what I mean. It's currently misguided a bit, and I think that's the thing. It's not about bashing the NHS. Because a lot of nations are envious of it. I was having an interesting conversation with somebody last night about when we provide things for people for free, and actually therefore people's commitment to stuff and the way that we use something when it's free, as opposed to when we're kind of making some kind of a contribution, and that'll be another thing, you know, perhaps will come up at some point, because, you know, it's kind of there as a resource, and of course it stops us then from finding other solutions, because in actual fact the challenge that we have with the model is that it provides a very limited set of resources for people. So there are hundreds and thousands of different types of therapies and treatments for things, which, because they aren't funded by the NHS and because people can't access them for nothing, you know, there's a whole section, you know, I wouldn't even like to guess what the percentage of stuff that people aren't aware of or able to find because they're funneled down one route. And interestingly, when you were talking about making relationships with therapists earlier, is that, you know, when you kind of go down the, I've had somebody local to me who's been waiting for counselling for about 18 months by the NHS, and of course, you know, they wait and they wait and they wait and they wait, and I've given them some other resources to look to, other avenues to look at, where you know, there are funded places out there where you can get local counselling and things like that, where you don't have to go through the NHS. Because of course the other thing is, when you go via that route, you're then given a therapist that's not your choice. You're given the one that you're given, and you know, after 18 months of waiting, you finally see a therapist or counsellor, and you don't resonate with them. You've either got to press on with them, or you know, or not have them. And yeah, so it's a challenge. So yeah, certainly it's about looking at, again, going back to the earlier points about looking at the at what it is. And of course, one of the challenges really is that the medical model. Okay, the medical model is set up to prescribe you know, prescribe pills for people. So I'm aware that we're kind of coming up to our hour soon, actually. So I think we'll just move on to the final question.
At the risk of prolonging, can I just say that the people that work in the NHS, I've had lots of conversations with people before, the people that work in the NHS, the people that work in all of these organisations, I am absolutely 100% committed that the vast majority of them are there because they absolutely believe that this is the best thing to be doing for all of their clients, for all of their patients. They understand that they're absolutely empathetic, just like everybody else, and they have seen masses of evidence that what they're doing really, really works. For the majority of people, it's just that providing it on such a large scale, you know, we talk about economies of scale in businesses, you know, and providing these things on such a large scale, sometimes you don't get quite the small changes that need to happen for each individual. But the vast majority, you know, there are a few bad apples in any barrel, but the vast majority of people are absolutely doing their level best, following all of the things that they've been taught to do their absolute best for the majority of people. Even in the pharmaceutical companies, you know, I've got some very good friends in the pharmaceutical companies who absolutely believe 100% that they're doing the very best for the majority of people that they're trying to help, and they're entirely committed to this. So, you know, we don't want to get into any difficulties here. We're complementary. We're not alternative, and I think that's what, in my point of view, I think that's a really healthy way to be with the NHS.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
Tanya.
absolutely.
And I think, sorry. I think that's kind of what most of us, well, what we've all been saying throughout the show, is that it's not a case of you know, that what we've got isn't right. It's about offering those other solutions and helping and bringing something together that helps to release the pressure that we're being, you know, that we're being put under and that we feel at the moment, and, you know, absolutely empowering individuals, because individuals don't necessarily feel that they are empowered. They don't know where to turn, they don't know what to do, and a combination of what the NHS has to offer and perhaps some extra things that we can bring to light too will help to, you know, to put things on the right path.
Absolutely, and you know, I've had recent experience of this with my son, who's got chronic ear problem, and just as an aside, there are certain things that he's going down, you know, he has to go down the NHS route with, and he may end up having to have major surgery, which we you know, which we've gone through all the possible routes to get an informed decision from people. But equally, you know, he's had to have an MRI scan and a CT scan, and so I've been working with a homeopath who has given me remedies for him to help, you know, with the kind of magnetism from the MRI scanner and counter the effects of the radiation from the CT scan, and also, it's about, I think Tanya's just saying here about the vulnerability, and I think that we have to be careful, absolutely, that you know, with the NHS, it's about the whole system. It's about the system. It's not about the individuals within it, and you know, who are working. So, and I think that certainly when there's a lot of choice out there, when there's a lot of choice and people are feeling vulnerable, then we've got to be careful and be really responsible when we're making suggestions to people about which routes they're going to go down. And of course, the NHS feels safe for a lot of people because it's a big organisation that's regulated, and everyone, you know, has this kind of image of a GP, and also you've got all the boundaries and confidentiality stuff in place. And often when people are desperate and that route isn't working, they can fall prey to other things. And it's really important, I think, from looking at the complementary side of things, that we are able to provide people with, you know, going back to the whole thing of informed choice. And I think that will be the overarching thing from this show, really, is how we still keep people safe in an environment outside of the conventional way, where there isn't the same kind of regulation, where people can, you know, can sort of in desperation try out things, and really raising the kind of reputation of that complementary side of things. I think that's very important, and engage. It'd be great to have some of those people, you know, psychiatrists, doctors, consultants in various fields on the show, actually, that we can get hold of. I know somebody within the pharmaceutical industry as well, actually having those discussions, because, you know, we think this big kind of, it can be, you know, we can give the impression, you know, that there's this big evil monster, you know, but actually when you break it down, it's a bunch of individuals doing the best that they can, or best that they feel on a daily basis, but the whole machine, you know, tends to take this kind of certain route. And I think we are coming to the end. I know I think Tanya's going to have to go really soon. So, you know, the final thing, sort of, not to encroach on your line of questioning, Carol, but we can start to wrap it up maybe. We'll be looking at what else, you know, what does it look like, and how do we enable those discussions? And certainly in Link for Growth, we have sort of something starting up at the moment, you know, over the next year, called Link for Growth Health. And that's really is an opportunity for everybody. There are communities on Google+. There's a Google+ Health and Wellness community, as well as a Google+ TV Health and Wellness community. And there's those discussions will be going on Facebook and in the Google+ communities. But literally, you know, Chris touched on this at the conference, different kind of layers and different strands. And within that, there will be kind of probably a special psychological, psychiatric, mental and emotional strand of that as well, which requires some special attention, and the health strand will be literally about getting the discussions going, get everybody on board, trying to provide that environment really for people, where they can find out in a safe place about complementary ways of looking after their health, whether it's in nutrition, whether it's in psychotherapy, whether it's in you know, some kind of peer support, whether it's in some kind of you know, homeopathy, and that would be you know, that's going to be an environment where people can explore all forms of healing whether it's, you know, sort of some of the more mainstream, well-known ones, or some new ones people might not have heard of and coming on. Really, giving people the opportunity to approach and ask questions. So certainly, if anybody you know, would like to become involved or would like to ask some questions, I think you're going to be able to post questions beneath this video when that's you know, well, possibly now, but certainly, you know, it'll be recorded up on the Link for Growth TV page. Please do you know, contact either myself, Carol, or Tanya to ask any questions from the show today and going forward. If you'd like to be involved in the discussions on health, the next week's TV show is going to be what should we be eating in quotes, and the one after that is going to be about food and mood, and we'll be having those discussions going forward. Would you like to add anything to that, Tanya, before you go?
Thanks very much, Emma. I don't think I would. Just a big thanks for having me as your first guest. It's been really enjoyable, and I hope people have got some useful information from it. So, no, thank you very much, and see you around.
Yeah, thanks ever so much, Tanya, for coming on. It's been lovely having you. Absolutely lovely. So,
thanks, Tanya.
Yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you in one of the next shows then. I'll be knocking on.
Thank you very much. It'll be a pleasure anytime I'm with either of you. Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
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 Carol,
Yep.
sort of coming over to you really, you know, about the next few shows. I've got my sheets of paper here. I've been writing all over them. Yeah, so really, you know, that Link for Growth Health is a really exciting venture going forward, and you know, in the way that Link for Growth has grown and community has grown, and we're growing that, you know, is wanting to get those people who not just experts, but you know, and we've already touched on the what is an expert, you know, thing, but we want to hear from people who have worked within health and wellness, have studied within health and wellness, have experience. Now, lived experience is really vital. You may not consider yourself an expert because you don't have a certificate on the wall, or you don't have, you know, a job within the field. But you know what? If you've recovered, or you're in recovery, or you've found a solution to a health and wellness issue that you that has worked for you and possibly others, but even if it's for you, you know, do come and invite you know, introduce yourself, and we'll get you onto a show, or even create a show around that thing that it is, because these are the stories that we want to hear. We want to hear people's experiences. It's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's really exciting. I think that we've got something here where, you know, there's a platform here now whereby people, as we've said all throughout the show, they can learn about different aspects, they can see different forms of therapy, they can discuss it, they can ask questions, and make informed choices that actually leave them feeling empowered, rather than in a position where they necessarily have to put that responsibility with someone else. You know, obviously people will want to still contact therapists, but it's about offering those solutions and you know, offering that people the opportunity to be empowered and not to be told that they have to go down a certain route. I just think it's absolutely brilliant, and I can't wait for the next shows and all the things coming up with you know, for Link for Growth and Link for Health too.
Absolutely. And actual fact, you know, if people want to, I'm happy to give my email address. I can't actually remember the full, I've got a very lengthy Link for Growth email address, and I can never remember the right order. So I'll just give you mine's. It's just emma@youknowyou.co.uk. So if people want to email me, I don't know if you want to give yours as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's carol@loveyouluvefood.com.
And certainly, you know, as we're going to be hosting these together, if people want to contact us with any ideas, suggestions, or information for shows, whether you want to get involved behind the scenes or whether you want to, you know, come on and chat or even host or co-host a show in your area of expertise, that will be lovely. And we will be inviting, you know, we know between us, I'm sure we know quite a lot of people within the field of health and wellness, don't we? And we will be knocking on your door.
Absolutely, come in.
So next week it's the same time. 10 o'clock next Tuesday, and it's week 2 is what should we be eating. And so far, as a guest, we have Anne Peckham coming on, as well as the 2 of us. And I'm not going to say the other person because I can't actually remember if they know yet. So, so they know that they're coming. So we'll be talking about, you know, about we touched on some things about controversies about what we should be eating, and that it's often contradictory and a bit scary, really. That, you know, sensible nutritional education and about, you know, our children, you know, are kind of suffering because of lack of parents' education about eating. We'll be talking about some of the faddy diets. What do they mean? You know, whether it's low carb, paleo, fasting, points, green, red days, and what the impact is of all this and all the different information that we're given. And then, you know, talking about Anne Peckham is a vegan, and she eats raw vegan 80% of the time. So she has a certain kind of diet, but it's about looking at, okay, what about being vegetarian, vegan, or raw? And do we need to be eating like this to be healthy, and what are the pros and cons? And again, looking at that discussion around, you know, everybody knowing what's good for them, I suppose. And so that'd be interesting to hear from Anne. And obviously yourself with your nutrition. I'm very interested in the in the sugar addiction.
I'm interested in sugar at the moment.
Well, in actual fact, we could share there is a Link for Growth eating and food group going on at the moment, which is Fight the Fat and Focus on Fitness February. So if you feel that applies to you, do Facebook us, because we can join you into that one. So yeah, and then that begs the question at the end: what should we be eating? And you know, the irony there is that you know, it's about moving away from dogmatic approach, I think, and that's what the whole show is about: moving away from dogma and getting to an approach which is more broad-minded and beneficial for us as individuals and the society. Okay.
Absolutely.
Right, we've done it, Carol. We've done week 1. So it's been great, and I'm really, really excited now for the whole rest of them now. So yeah, thank you, and we'll see everybody next Tuesday, same time.
Next Tuesday at 10.
Yeah,
Thanks,
brilliant.
Emma.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.